Nepal, a land of beauty, mystery, and contradiction. Behind the tourist facade, daily life in Nepal's rural areas is still a struggle for survival, especially when it comes to health care. The problem is not a lack of doctors. Traditional medical schools in Nepal graduate nearly 1,000 doctors every year. The real problems are 50% of newly graduated doctors will leave Nepal for more lucrative positions in other countries, and doctors who do remain in Nepal favor urban areas, leaving much of rural Nepal seriously underserved. The unequal distribution of healthcare workers accounts in large part for a staggering disparity in life expectancy of some 20 years between rural and urban areas. Dr. Arjun Karki has dedicated the bulk of his professional career to improving healthcare in his native Nepal. His vision of equal health services delivery for all people across all social and ethnic classifications evolved into a passionate dream to one day launch a medical school whose graduates would be motivated to provide health care to the underserved rural areas in Nepal. Over the last 10 years, Dr. Karki sought out many like-minded physicians and medical educators from around the world, and together, in the form of the Patent Academy of Health Sciences, or PAHS, they have managed to make that dream come true.
So the specific or special characteristics that distinguishes us from other medical schools is we are committed to produce doctors and nurses and other categories of healthcare personnel who would have the necessary skills, the competence, attitude, and motivation to go and serve in the rural areas. So this is the difference.
Confidence and empathy, ethical sensitivity or moral 1,000 applicants.
PAHS consulted widely with a national advisory board made up of reputed academicians, physicians, and development experts, as well as an international advisory board comprising colleagues from 12 medical schools from around the world. Dr. Robert Woolard is an MD and Royal Canadian Legion professor and head of the Department of Family Practice at the University of British Columbia.
When I did the initial feasibility study, this is way more sophisticated than anything I could have dreamt of.
It was Dr. Woolard who undertook the initial feasibility study for PAHS in 2004.
I am pretty knowledgeable about all of the medical schools in North America and many of those in Europe. And I think what was impressing me was that the sophistication with which they were building a multi-year community connection with their students within the curriculum was way beyond anything that I've seen anybody else even attempt. Here we're talking about 2 decades difference in life expectancy between people living here in Kathmandu and living out there outside the valley in Nepal. 2 decades. That's huge. If you're going to have an impact on that, you've got to do big things.
The first challenge was to recruit students from areas of Nepal not normally represented in medical schools. In June 2010, PAH's first class of medical students was sworn in. These young men and women were carefully selected to reflect a geographical mix of students from the Kathmandu Valley, the southern lowlands of the Terai, and the mountainous regions of Nepal. The admissions process was customized for Nepal and included a combination of written tests and interview scenarios designed to assess both academic aptitude as well as non-academic qualities, including empathy, compassion, and a commitment to serving the rural population of Nepal. Alongside testing and interviewing, an equally pressing challenge was crafting a medical curriculum appropriate to the actual needs and cultural contexts of Nepal. Initially, this involved a lot of listening to local experts and faculty members by international advisors.
I opted for one. He could have replants, he could have just put the English numericals.
Using an innovative teaching method called problem-based learning, students are introduced on paper to a patient with a medical problem. A facilitator guides a discussion of the case, and in the process, students identify for themselves the things they need to know in order to solve the problem, just as they would if they were doctors. Problem-based learning accomplishes a core objective of PAHS curriculum design by putting students into active roles as problem solvers and team players. While learning problem-solving skills from each other, students simultaneously fulfill their course requirements in the basic sciences. PAHS students right from the start of their training are spending time in rural communities. Once they develop a relationship with the village, students will be expected to propose, develop, and implement a community health project that will address the needs of the people in the village. 25% of the curriculum weight has been allotted to community health sciences that will expose PAHS students to ordinary people's lives. Learning medicine in a community context in this way has been shown to increase the likelihood of students later choosing to work in a rural community setting. PAHS recognizes the critical importance of supporting its graduates once they are working in rural and remote clinics. Providing new doctors with a way to consult with mentors, as well as opportunities for them to research information to inform their clinical decisions, is of paramount importance.
It's going to have them doing teaching within a rural context.
Cliff Taven is a professor and chairman of the Department of Genetics at Harvard Medical School. He is also chair of PAHS Faculty Advisory Committee.
We're going to have a situation where when they actually go back to the rural regions after their medical training, where we stay in touch with them. We're not going to just turn them loose. We're going to have an alumni tracking sort of system that doesn't exist anywhere over here, where we continually support them, where each year we take our rural graduates and bring them back and have them connect with each other. We're setting up, one of the great things is that Patton Hospital has been named as the hub for internet connection to the rural regions, that telemedicine, getting medicine through the internet out into the rural regions is being coordinated through Patton Hospital. So we'll be able to support them electronically.
Ultimately, the success of PAHS will be judged by the number of doctors it manages to place and keep in rural areas. PAHS is confident of success for a number of reasons. First of all, PAHS has been careful to select at least 50% of its students from rural areas. Second, 60% of students have received scholarships on the condition that they will serve 2 to 4 years in rural areas upon completion of training. Third, PAHS has the legal mandate to withhold diplomas of scholarship students until they complete their mandatory rural service. Fourth, PAHS has engaged local communities and district governments to financially invest in the education of students from their jurisdictions and to take responsibility in assigning work for them once they complete their training. Lastly, graduates who complete mandatory rural service will be given preferential enrollment in postgraduate clinical training programs.
I really think that what we're doing here will end up serving as a model for how to have a medical school that really works to address the needs of the rural people, how to have sustainable health care in rural regions that will impact the way training is done in Canada and the United States as well. I think that this really can be an example of how to train physicians to stay in the rural regions, to train people who will go back to rural regions and serve that need. And to the extent that it succeeds, the impact is going to be far broader than just the people that we train here at PAHS. Drawing upon what I've learned from all of my colleagues, I really think that putting this all together, we have a chance to do something here and succeed in a way that hasn't succeeded before. And that would be very important here and very important as a model for addressing rural health needs elsewhere. So I'm excited about it.